So yeah, my name is Abhishek Abbas. I am a master student. I'm pursuing information systems right now. And today's topic is causal inference, which I've been working on during my summer, since my summer course. So today we'll be talking about that. So the talk is mainly going to revolve around why causality, what is causal inference, like what is causality in itself, why we need it, and how to join the research group. So this is how the whole talk is going to look like. So starting with the first question, that it's kind of a question, you can share your opinions in the chat. So the first question is, what is intelligence? So I would like to ask everyone, like, how would you define intelligence? Like, Aristotle is a Greek philosopher. He's famously stated that the mark of an educated mind is the ability to entertain a thought without accepting it. What he means by this is, whenever like we differentiate ourselves humans from other creatures on let me take an example, like humans from animals. How we are different from them is, we take up a question, we analyze it, like there's a hypothesis, we analyze it, and then we make conclusion. That is what intelligence is defined by Aristotle. And definitely it's a debatable topic. It's Intelligence in itself is not very clearly defined. People consider just curve fitting as intelligence. Some people do not. Some people think that, hypothesis testing is what we consider as an intelligent model. So starting from this, I want everyone to start thinking on, like, how would you define intelligence? So a critical intellectual distinction between humans and machine is the ability to define their goals and reason towards achieving them. That's what we do, and that's what, like, it's. I'll be considering the definition of intelligence throughout this. If you have any other thoughts, feel free to share. So this is kind of a flow chart. Like, we make an observation, we ask a question, we consider the hypothesis, whether it's true or not, and then we do an experiment if it's required, and then we analyze the result. So the process of accepting and rejecting hypothesis to reach a conclusion needs to be accepted and used within the AI models that we are using today, and that is being implemented in the real world today. Coming to the main question, what is causal inference? So causal inference is basically figuring out the cause and effect in the model. What causes what? If whether A causes B or B causes A, like figuring out that causal relationship in the model. So to define it, causal inference is the process of drawing conclusion about a causal connection. The question that is asked most often in research, like in health, social and behavioral science, is about the causal nature. So it essentially revolves around figuring out what causes what. Answering the question of why is how I would like to define causal inference. So the practice of implementing causality, figuring out this cause and effect relationship is like being used in the medical field for a very long time, which is termed as medical trials. So you can take a case like, if you want to check if a medication works for you or not, what is done is you try it on a population. Half of the population is given the treatment as in they're given that medication. Half of the population is not given the treatment, and then you analyze whether taking this medication helped you or not. Like, did it help cure your headache? Like, did crocin help in curing your headache or not? So for that, you have to see both the outcomes. Half of the people have to take the medication, half of the people are given placebo. So they're not told that they're given the medication or not, but uh, it's basically called randomization. So the people do not know whether they're given the treatment or not, and that is how we analyze whether the population that's given the treatment, whether it helped them cure the disease or whether it helped them in any way or not. So that's how you make the hypothesis and come to a causal conclusion. So it's all about figuring out this cause and effect. Now, why causality? So there are many reasons of why we need causality. I've tried to write some of the reasons here, and I'll be explaining these. So the first is transparency. So as I think we discussed in the previous talk, that transparency is required. In today's world, transparency is required. If your model is making a decision, you need to know why it's making a decision, how it's making a decision. So today, transparency is required in the model, and causality helps you with giving that transparency. The other point is better decision making process. So if you know the cause and effect in the model, you can make a better decision. For example, if there is a causal diagram, like supposedly if smoking causes cancer, if you have a causal relationship between these two, if you know that, yes, smoking is causing cancer, then you can make a decision that, okay, probably not smoking would uh, would not lead to lung cancer. Like, this is a very easy example with which I'm explaining, but I want you to understand what a causal relationship is and what kind of decisions you can make through that. So decision making is something that a causal diagram can help you with. The other point is achieving human level intelligence. Like we just considered, what is intelligence? So making a hypothesis, coming to a conclusion, and through that hypothesis, analyzing it and testing it. So it helps the machines. If we give a causal model to the machine, if we try and implement it in the AI models, then we are trying to achieve a human level intelligence. What's actually artificial intelligence? We are not just doing curve fitting here. We are trying to give human level intelligence into the machines, into the models. So that is like another step, the next step, which will help us in achieving human level intelligence. Moving ahead from statistical inference, which is merely curve fitting. So what uh, is being done till now in the field of machine learning is merely curve fitting. We are coming up with different kinds of techniques which are more and more accurate, more and more precise in fitting that curve. The better you fit your model in the to the curve, the better your model is, which is actually true. But the question is, what's next? It's the decision making process is not just about what has happened. It's like making an effective decision which will make a effect in the future, which will probably help you increase the sale in your company, something like that. Those kinds of difficult decisions. So causality helps us in moving ahead of statistical inference, what's called statistical inference. So we'll be talking about it in a little bit more detail ahead. So, and also the main question, like where it all revolves around answering the question why. It helps us give the reason why something happened, which is very important. So, yeah, moving ahead. Causality helps us answering the question why. Like a very simple example is like, did this medication actually cure the disease? Does smoking uh, affect lung cancer or not? And an interesting fact that I would like to share: in early 90s, it was smoking was not considered to be a cause of lung cancer. There have been some papers published which show that initially it was smoking was not considered one of the causes for lung cancer, but of course, like over the period of time with the research and everything, we have proof that yes, smoking causes lung cancer. But there has been a struggle, and that is where it's been that's where causality comes in, answering these types of questions. Does a cause B or not? So it's long been established in the medical field, answering these types of questions. uh, would I have cured the cancer if I had not smoked in the past 2 years? So I think I just mentioned, yeah. So these kinds of questions. So there are a lot of important questions, other questions that causality can help us answer, like can the data prove whether an employer is guilty of hiring discrimination? What fraction of past crimes could have been avoided by a given policy? So these are kind of counterfactual questions when you like do an intervention, when you change something in the model and you try to figure out like, okay, you did something and this is what happened, but what if something else had happened? What if you had done something else? Asking those questions is where, the importance of causality can be seen. What is the cause of death of a given individual in a specific incident? So these kinds of questions are really important. So we'll be we will be considering some of the important problems. So these are the kinds of questions that it can help us with. Now, considering why it is important in today's AI, why it can help in how and why it can help in achieving, the next step after statistical inference. So the first is bias in AI. I think Karthik and Abhishek explained it really well, where these AI models are being implemented in the real world. So I've also written a blog on the real world implications, where uh, things like these models are being used in predictive policing. These models are being used in uh, checking things like if you're homosexual or not, like checking if you have done a crime or not. Like these kinds of things are the real world use cases of where models are being implemented, and these implementation give rise to like we've seen bias in these models, and because these models are being implemented in the real world, it is more critical, it's more important to make these models fair, to make sure that these models are making the right decision. So the decision making process is right, is why causality and interpretability and explainability are all connected, and why these things are important today to talk about. So considering bias in AI, so bias is a strong inclination of a mind or a preconceived opinion about something or someone. So basically, when you have a preconceived notion or some kind of, you know, disproportionate weight in favor of something, in favor of something against something else. So if I like a particular cricket team, then that is also a kind of bias. But I'm not saying that's a bad bias, but considering the definition of bias, so these are all the things that are reflected even in the data that we collect, and these are some things that we need to be aware of because we are feeding this type of data to our models. So, very interesting fact, 180 human biases have been defined and classified till now, which are definitely there in the data that we feed to the models, and which are increasingly getting reflected in the decisions that these models make. So this bias in the data and the implementation of these models in the real world makes it more and more important to at least be aware of these things and try to prevent this. So questions could be like, is bias good or bad? Like considering the example I gave, how much bias is good bias? How can we prevent this bias? So these are some of the questions which I've tried to answer in some of the Medium blogs that I've written. I would really like you guys to check that out. Uh, the another important thing why causality is important is figuring out that correlation is not causation. So correlation is the statistical measure that defines the size and direction of a relationship between the two variables. So a bunch of variables that vary together is correlation, which could be anything. To any two variables which vary over the period of time could be correlated with each other. So that's what correlation is. You might have come across Pearson correlation coefficients, which tries to classify the correlation between -1 and +1, which kind of shows you the direction if it's positively correlated or negatively correlated, and the strength of correlation. And then coming to causation, as we just discussed, it's just figuring out whether the two variables, whether A is causally related with B or not. If whether it's so the important thing is to understand that correlation is not causation. Two variables varying together does not mean that one causes another. So we'll be discussing some of the examples. I think that would help you understand this. So uh, ice cream is correlated with sunburn, as you can see the leftmost picture. So there's a correlation. There might be a correlation between these two because both of these happen during the sunny weather in the summers, basically. So sun causes the increase in the sale of ice cream. Hot and sunny weather causes sunburn. Because there is a same cause of these two things, that is why these two things are correlated. But if you remove this sun from the diagram, then you just have ice cream and sunburn correlated. And with the current models, you might come to a conclusion that okay, if increase in ice cream causes more sunburn, let's decrease the sale of ice cream. But the question is, would that be a factor? Would that be a good decision to make? Would that actually cause decrease in sunburn? Another example is ice cream sales correlated with shark attacks. So some of these correlations are very funny, and there is a website which showcases all these spurious correlations. So you can check these out. Another example I would like to share to distinguish between correlation and causation is like smoking causes lung cancer, as we discussed, and smoking is most oftenly correlated with alcohol consumptions. So it's important to understand smoking causes lung cancer because there is a causal relationship between smoking and lung cancer. But smoking is quite often correlated with alcohol consumption because uh, uh, the people who smoke are they highly tend to have a high consumption of alcohol. So there's a correlation between these two, but this does not mean that decreasing the sales of cigarettes would decrease the sale of alcohol, because there's no causal relationship between these two. So I hope this helps in distinguishing between these things. Simpson's paradox. This is another kind of bias that that is very important to consider. So Simpson's paradox is a famous counterintuitive result in statistics that shows the result can appear, disappear, or even become reserved when the same data is dependent on how one chooses to break the population. So coming to the example, the graph on the right hand side, you see that forget the red and the blue line, just focus on the black line initially. So basketball success is negatively correlated with the height. So uh, if you have if you're like 6 feet, then there's a very less chance of you being successful in basketball. There's a very less chance of you having a career in basketball. But I don't think that a lot of people would agree with that. We tend to think, and it's actually true, that your height is very uh, can help you in your basketball career. If you have a good height, it can help you in your basketball career if you like playing that, of course. So when you break the data according to ages, so age is the confounder here, which is affecting these two things. So if you break that population according to the ages 5 to 10 and then 50 to 55, you'll see there's a positive correlation. So these types of things you'll kind of figure out when you try to break the population. And the very important thing is to at least know that there is a confounder, there is a factor age that is affecting, because these two are completely opposite correlations. So it's important to at least be aware of this, that within your data these types of spurious correlations are there, and you need to understand these before making a decision. Another example is, I think it is cholesterol and exercise. So cholesterol is initially, if you look at the left-hand graph, cholesterol is linearly correlated with exercise. So the more you exercise, the more cholesterol level you would have, which is of course not true. So if you break it according to the age, you'll see there's an opposite correlation between these two factors. Coming to causal inference versus statistical inference. So this is a very debatable topic. But so some points that I would like everyone to consider is like, causal inference is the study of the cause and effect. So what it helps, like it's the next step ahead of statistical inference. So like moving ahead of causal inference. So basically statistical inference does not give a causal direction in the model, like what caused what. With statistical inference we cannot figure that out, like we just saw a few examples. So another example I've just mentioned here, like chocolate consumption is, there is actually a paper, I think I saw it in the New York Times, that chocolate consumption is correlated with Nobel Prize winners. And it is actually a study to figure out like, is it actually true or not? So, but I hope that's not true. Uh, like increasing chocolate consumption, I don't think it would increase the Nobel Prize, the number of Nobel Prize winners in the country. So these are the type of things that causality helps us with. It gives you, causal inference gives you tools to do that. Causal inference gives you these tools to figure out whether there's a causal relationship or not. So causality helps in understanding exactly what to do if you want to get the best outcome, like the best decision. So it gives you tools to do that. Statistical inference is all about predicting well, but all the tasks are not about prediction. It's also about effective decision making. So causality can help you with that. Current approaches can't be used to distinguish between cause and effect, using the data and understand the reason behind them. So we cannot understand the data generating process with the statistical models. What causality offers is uh, it helps you thinking what was the data generating process, because the data that you have, like one of the bias is sampling bias, because the data that you're training a model with is not the data that is actually you need for the model. If you're checking if you want to know the average height of men in United States, you will not knock on every door and ask the height of every person. You'll take a sample and give a approximate answer for that. But that might be true, that might not be true if you're just going like, if you're not uh, if your sample is not properly properly and effectively taken, as in if you just take count the heights of all the people in Massachusetts, then your average you cannot conclude the average height of US with the data that you've gathered with only the population in Massachusetts. So I hope that makes it clear that causality helps you think about the data generating process. What exactly is the cause? What is causing this? What is causing that? Uh, so it helps us think what's next. So with this discussion, I think that a lot of people might ask, like, you know, uh, is statistical inference that bad? Is it like what we've been studying? Is it bad, or is it like is it something that would not be used in the future or something? So to that, I would like to answer that what we've been doing, like deep learning, it's the best we've reached today in the field of statistical inference, in the field of machine learning models. And it definitely helps us getting to very good conclusions. So like deep learning models are exceptionally versatile. They're very powerful curve fitting techniques They help us in identifying the hidden patterns. They can predict across a broad spectrum of problems. So it's not that it's bad. It's solved a lot of problems for us. But the question here is what's next. So even I think I'll be sharing it next. What people think, what researchers in the field of AI think about causality, because I think that's very important to know. And just to mention that curve fitting and statistical inference is not bad. It has solved a lot of problems for us, but causality is kind of portrayed here as the next step in answering the questions that are like not possible with just statistical inference. So the question is what next, which we should consider. So opinions from the expert. So Judea Pearl is a very famous researcher who's done a lot of research and given a lot of tools and kind of formalized the field of causality. So he mentions that all the impressive achievements of deep learning amount to just curve fitting, but it's not just, but definitely, like as I mentioned, curve fitting did help us, but the question is what's next? What's next? So MIT has written a lot of articles. There are a few papers which describe the problems in the current AI, which can be biased, which can be, it cannot help us in correlation, Simpson's paradox, and all these things. So even Yoshua Bengio, who is the Turing Award winner, has mentioned that he's one of the I think the uh, top guys in, you know, if you have a question to in regards to deep learning, he's like one of the experts in deep learning. So even he has mentioned in one of his interviews that, you know, we need to be able to extend what we've done to things like reasoning, learning causality, and exploring the world in order to learn and acquire information. So yeah, so also something to mention here, Prabhu, how much time is left? Like, am
I
I
think
on
you're
time?
good. Yeah, you
Okay.
can just finish it maybe in next 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, causality is not, like I mentioned, causality is not widely accepted right now. We itself in Northeastern do not have a course or a proper study on causal inference, but in UCLA, in University of Columbia, a lot of universities are having their own labs. They're having their own courses on causal inference because they think it's important to work on. It's important for students in the field to know about this. So I think because it's not very recognized, it is recognized, but not like compared to statistical inference. So I think that there are a lot of opportunities. There are opportunities to publish papers. There is opportunity for you to research a lot, come up with new methods. So this is kind of a new thing which can help you if you're actually interested in research. So what I want to mention is like there are a lot of opportunities if you're interested in causal inference. You can publish a lot of papers here. So just giving you an idea on what I have been working on. So this is a ebook that I have been working on, which is Guide to Causal Inference. So this is one of the screenshots that I've attached from my ebook, which gives you a description of what causality is, why it is important, where it originated from, and some of the causal terms. Because it's another field, I think that there has to be something like a dictionary kind of a something, you know, which explains all the terms that are being used in the field, and other important topics, other methods, other implementations. I've tried to add as much as I can in this ebook, and I think it should be ready by the end of the month, and I'll be happy to share it with anyone who's interested. Uh, and there are a few Medium articles that are published on bias and fairness, correlation is not causation, bias mitigation methods, and all these things. So I'd be happy if you want to check it out, and any reviews are welcome. Now, coming to the question, how is causal inference research going to be throughout? So initially, it's quite similar to the interpretability topic. We are, it's open-ended. We initially are going to have weekly talks. We are going to read research papers. We'll have talks, discussion, brainstorming on these papers. We'll try to implement them and work on some methods that are already there and how we can use it to solve real world problems. So doing all these things, once we are all on the same page, once we all are interested in actually pursuing a project, actually publishing paper or doing a project under this, I have a few topics where we can proceed. Even professor is, I think, working on one of the projects on counterfactual visualization, and there are a lot of topics to explore and do projects on in this field. So we might be doing that in the future. But initially, it's just going to be brainstorming, talking about it, and then let's see how this goes in the future. There'll be a Google form which I'll be sharing after the session, which you guys can fill up. And some of the requirements are you should know Python, you should know how to build a model, you should have knowledge about basic knowledge of probabilistic and statistical models. So other than that, I think it's open for anyone who is interested, and I think all of you guys would be having those skill set, I'm sure. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me over LinkedIn. I have the link over here and my email ID. So yeah, thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Yeah, so we'll take a 5 minutes of Q&A if anyone has